This episode of the Nerf Herder Council is brought to you by Audible. Visit audibletrial.com/NHC for your 30-day trial and a free audiobook download.
Hi, this is Joseph Williams, son of John Williams, and you are watching the Nerf Herder Council.
Why, you stuck-up, half-witted, scruffy-looking Nerf herder!
You can't use that word! Only we can use that word!
You're tuned in to the Nerf Herder Council, your source for Star Wars opinion, conversation, and debate. Featuring your hosts, JT.
Stormtrooper armor deflects everything except Orback hooves. They're like a horse version of Thomas the Tank Engine.
AJ.
Yeah, Rebels is a lot like our show, where we think we have a good idea and then it just fails in execution.
On this episode of the Nerf Herder Council, having just watched The Last Jedi with a live orchestra accompaniment, JT and AJ share some new thoughts on their favorite of the sequel trilogy movies.
This is the Nerf Herder Council.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Nerf Herder Council. I am your host, JT. We are live on the Facebook and YouTube pages of the Nerf Herder Council, as well as the virtual Cantina Network. We, of course, are brought to you by Audible. Go to audibletrial.com/NHC for your 30-day trial and a free audiobook download. If you are watching on YouTube on either of the pages, please click that like button, click that subscribe button, and smash that notification bell so that you are notified every time we go live. If you would like to get customizable Nerf Herder Council swag, go to shop.nerfherdercouncil.com. And if you would like to get virtual Cantina Network swag, just go to tpublic.com/user/virtual-cantina. Without further ado, for the first time in 2024, my esteemed co-host and my road trip buddy to the Queen City, Cincinnati, my brother AJ. What's going on, man? Happy New Year. How's it going?
Hey, good to see you, man. How you doing tonight?
I am sick, but at least it's a week when I'm working from home, so I don't have to do like almost a 2-hour commute, both ways. So I'm feeling good.
But it was a good holiday break, wasn't it? I've got a couple of things in my wardrobe I need to cover tonight real quick here. So first, we got the Cleveland Browns ball cap for all of our audio viewers out there, because our mighty, mighty Cleveland Browns have clinched their ticket to the postseason in the NFL. Third time in 20 years. We're ready to make a playoff run. Been watching YouTube videos all day about everyone talking about how we got a shot at the Super Bowl. So that's awesome. And remember how we talked about that shirt that you should get on when you can at shop.nerfherdercouncil.com?
I'm familiar.
That's absolutely true, because the lawyers at Disney are asshats, and stuff doesn't last long. So I am wearing the Chewbacca Nerf Herder Council Family Roster T-shirt that is not available as of this show because we had it taken down for a copyright strike. I'm working on getting it back up again, but that's why when these things happen, you got to be on Patreon, patreon.com/NHC podcast to know when these things go up, when they happen, and then you can go over and get your gear before they shut it down.
Now, do you think it was because you actually put a silhouette of Chewbacca on the shirt, or do you think it's because it actually had the names?
I've ripped off a ton of their stuff before, so I don't think it's either of those things. I think it was a bot that picked it up on the fact that I used the word Wookiee in the description. It could be. I don't know. I purposely made the imagery as obscured as possible so it wasn't violating anything, but apparently either it wasn't obscured enough or you can't use proper Star Wars terms in your description. We've had our shirts taken down before for actually saying like Last Jedi style logo, and they're like, well, okay, that doesn't work, that kind of stuff. So we had to rename that's like sequel trilogy style logo or something. So this is called the NHC Family Roster.
Okay.
I steered away from it in the title, but in the description I did say consult a doctor if these Wookiees persist. So
if these Wookiees persist, nice.
So I don't know what the problem was, but we'll figure it out. We'll get it put back up there, or maybe we'll get it taken down again. Who knows? But Patreon is where to find all of our updates for the time being, because the one thing I'm not good at is fixing WordPress. So our website is broken.
Oh, beautiful. Okay. Well,
yeah. It's not that I've been lazy. It's that I cannot actually get into the WordPress dashboard to post new shows. So patreon.com/NHC podcast, whether you're a paid member or not, go there for all of our most recent uploads. There's an RSS link there. You can feed it into your podcast app. Still stay up to date on all of our audio. It's just a different place.
Well, it wouldn't be the NHC if we didn't have crap broken all the time. So,
exactly.
Speaking of which, real quick, as always, there might be dirty words on this show, and the views of the Nerf Herder Council don't necessarily represent those of the Virtual Cantina Network. So we got that out of the way there. Real quick, a few comments here. Our very good friend Kale McLeish says, Happy New Year, Drakes. Good to see you, Kale. Happy New Year to you as well. Mimar, always good to see you, says, Happy New Year. Great to see you, Mimar. Happy New Year as well. And Kale says you should have called it, instead of using the word Wookiee, you should have used Holiday Ape Man. There you go. I think there's merit to that.
He also asked if they can have a back door. I'm not sure what that means, but this is a somewhat family show, Kale, so you need to keep that clean, buddy.
That's why I didn't pull that one up, but of course you went there, so, Jeff Caffrey, good to see you, man. He says, Happy Nude Year.
The backdoor joke is out of line, but the nude comment, we'll get that one in there. Okay.
He's one of the admins. He can say what he wants.
True.
If we get booted because of one of the admins, we're officially off the hook. We're like, look, man, it was your network. Like, so.
Shouldn't have said that, man.
Shouldn't have said that, man. All right. So, well, let's get into it. We took a trip on December 29th. It was 2 days before New Year's Eve. It was a Friday, and it's an annual pilgrimage for us now. This is the third time that we've done it. First time, obviously, 2 years ago. It was Return of the Jedi. Last year it was The Force Awakens, and this year was The Last Jedi. So we made from my house, about a 3 hour and 15-minute drive to Cincinnati, Ohio, headed straight south, and got a hotel room for the night. And we took in a viewing of The Last Jedi on the big screen, but the catch to it was they had removed the soundtrack, and the Cincinnati Philharmonic Orchestra was playing the score live along with the movie. So, again, this is the third year in a row we've done it. We have also seen A New Hope and Empire that way here in Cleveland. So we're getting pretty close to... at this point, pretty much after next year, which I'm sure they'll do The Rise of Skywalker. All we have to do is catch the prequels with an orchestra. And I got to tell you, man, I don't care what's going on. I'll sell my left nut to see frickin' Revenge of the Sith in that format. So,
that would be epic.
I know.
That might be the best all-around soundtrack. I'm not sure.
It's
a hard one to rank because, Empire is pretty iconic, but it's pretty much just the Imperial March all over the whole thing.
Yeah. Well, it's got Yoda's theme, which might be my favorite piece of Star Wars music. Some good stuff in there, but yeah, Revenge of the Sith, I think, without a doubt, is the most atmospheric. So, but yeah, so we were down in Cincinnati and we caught The Last Jedi with the orchestra playing, and it was it's interesting, man, because they had they had cosplayers there. Obviously, we saw a couple of TIE pilots, we saw a Vader, we had some Rebel pilots. We had a Kylo Ren, we had a Boba Fett, and much to my delight, we had a Scout Trooper. So that was awesome. So we got, to take some pictures there, which was really, really cool. They had, some Star Wars themed drinks and whatnot. The one thing that I noticed, which I thought was kind of odd, the first time we went a couple of years ago, there were more people like us. There were people in Star Wars gear. There was, several members of the 501st were there. And last year, not as much. This year, it was like non-existent. Like I felt like people were looking at us funny because, I roll in wearing a baseball cap and a Celebration 5 sweatshirt and a Celebration t-shirt. And, you had an awesome, Star Wars hoodie that you had gotten at Disney. Everybody else was like, it was like they were there for the orchestra, not the movie. They're all dressed to the nines and everything. I felt like a chump, but
that's how we roll though, man.
Yeah. I can't go to a Star Wars event and not dress like a Star Wars fan. I would feel weird if I went dressed to the nines with no Star Wars gear. That would just be weird. That would just be absolutely weird.
Yeah, I don't understand this idea of trying to make it like a super high class event. I mean, it is an orchestral performance, but you're watching a movie. You're watching a Star Wars movie.
Yeah,
we love it, but it's not like high art. This isn't Mozart or the great composers of the Baroque period.
Right. All right, so get to some comments here. Jeff Caffrey says that any Star Wars movie with an orchestra is a must-see. The last one he saw was Return of the Jedi at the Hollywood Bowl with the L.A. Philharmonic. Very, very cool. Kale McLeish agrees with us. Says, dude, Sith Live would be huge. And also says, there's an episode idea for you. Rank the 9 film scores. Now, that is some show prep.
That would be revisiting one of our, I think we did that in year 1, maybe year 2. We tried, and that was a task.
That's a very big task, yes. Kayla Dawn Simons, good to see you. Thank you very much for tuning in. She says, a little late, but a musical term for you in reference to the Imperial March. A leitmotif is a short, I hope I'm pronouncing that, Leitmoti, I think leitmotif.
Yep.
Is a short recurring musical phrase associated with a particular person, place, or idea. It is closely related to the musical concepts of idée fixe or motto theme. All right, Kayla, I know you're new to the show. I just like we don't do smart here on the Nerf Herder Council. You're using some words that I can't pronounce, and I have a pretty good vocabulary. So I think you might be a little too smart for our show. You might not enjoy what we're doing here.
Yeah. Can you go drink it off for like 30 minutes and come back, please?
I'm just kidding, Kayla. Appreciate the info. That's awesome. Yeah, we don't usually bring up really cool stuff like that, like actual knowledge. Mm-hmm. So, like I said, idée fixe or motto theme. I may be mispronouncing that. I probably am, but so very cool. Look at that. People dropping knowledge on us, man. See, here we go. See, Kale nailed it. He said, you're meant to be a musician, aren't you? Look, Kale, I play instruments. I'm mostly a singer. I never claimed to be a musician, okay? I just know stuff, Yeah, Kayla's example. She says, for example, what song plays when Vader comes on the screen every time? There we go. Okay, see, that's perfect. A dummy like me, I can get that. All right, so you've got some pictures, I believe, you want to share?
Well, I just wanted to call up the one because you were talking about the Scout Trooper in particular. So if you want a peek into the future of what John will look like when he completes his armor,
here it comes.
This is definitely it. I mean, it's a hell of a good looking Scout Trooper, but he's a little bit husky. I didn't say anything worse than that, but he's a little bit on the large side for our audio viewers out there.
I knew that was going to come up.
We've seen worse, though. We've seen worse.
Now that's true. That's true.
Well, and it wasn't like I called up a picture of Porkins on you or something. So, you're fine.
True. Yeah,
we
were.
You could be a plus size Scout Trooper. Why not?
I have to admit that I had a little kid moment when I saw the Scout Trooper. We were headed up an escalator, and I happened to look to my right, and down on the main level was Scout Trooper with a TIE pilot and stuff. And I didn't even mean to do it, but I go, "Oh, Scout Trooper!" Like I just bellowed it out. Like, oop, crap.
Guys, for those of you who don't know, John has 2 moves when he's excited. One is to belt something out at an obnoxious volume that he doesn't even realize he's doing until it's too late. Or he jumps up and down and taps you on the shoulder real fast. See, I'm shaking my camera doing it. Jumps up and down and taps you on the shoulder real fast. Like, dude, Scout Trooper.
Yeah, guilty as charged. This was the belting something out.
Yeah. It got a few looks.
Yeah, and I have to admit, you had a good line. I don't think you meant it to be a line, but you said, I said, man, I really got to finish that armor, but I got to lose some weight first. And you were like, no, you'll be all right. I mean, look at that one. That guy's a little husky. And I was like, God damn it. So
I was trying to take the pressure off, buddy.
Yeah. All right. So this is why Kayla's much smarter than we are. She says, I have a degree in music tech. Okay. That makes sense. I do not.
Nor do I.
I basically yell at people for pocket money on the weekends. So that's my musical stuff. Kale McLeish, absolutely nailing it. Hey, I've said many times that when I finish my armor and go cosplaying, I'm going to be the scout trooper that Han, gets tapped on the shoulder or whatever. And just, hey, and that's all I'm going to say to anybody. That is all I'm going to say. And people will be like, oh, your armor's awesome. Hey, hey, man, can I get a picture with you? Hey, I'm going to be the hey scout trooper. So,
see, the real trick is going to be to actually communicate with nothing but hey in your vocabulary.
I'll use voice inflection like, hey, man, can I get a picture with you? Hey.
Exactly.
Did you make a mistake here on the elbow pad? Hey. It all depends on the conversation. Kale says, we got a badass in the chat, I see. Yeah, Kale. I feel like Kayla would do better on my other show. She's got a degree, man. She talks some nerdy music talk on Talking Into Infinity there.
I was going to say, music nerds, go to the Dream Theater podcast for sure.
There we go, Talking Into Infinity. All right, so let's dig into this a little bit because we've talked about The Last Jedi before. We love it. Okay, so first and foremost, we'll get that out of the way. I know this is a very divisive movie, and it definitely has its weak points. We're aware of that. I think the low-hanging fruit here, at least for us, is to say that we feel that this is the best of the sequel trilogy. Am I wrong there, AJ?
No, we are definitely in alignment on that one.
Okay. Yeah, Jeff Caffrey, Spencer better be watching. I was thinking the same thing. Spencer is a huge fan of this movie. We talk about it all the time.
Spencer is always watching.
It's nice. So this is for AJ and I the best of the sequel trilogy, but for us it goes even further. To me, I think this is one of my favorite Star Wars movies overall. We've mentioned it before. To me, this is the most George Lucas thing that they have done since the Disney takeover in whatever it was, 2012 or whatever. Mm-hmm. This movie just takes chances that none of the other material they've put out. That freaking cold medicine got me all loopy. It takes chances that all the other stuff does not or has not, and. Every time I watch it, you and I did this several times, just looked over each other with that look like, oh, it's so awesome. So many times during the movie. And it's just so creative. And I think a word that I would use is ballsy. It's, for Rian Johnson to come in there and do what he did with Luke Skywalker was absolutely one of the ballsiest things you could ever do. I know J.J. Abrams killed off Han Solo, and fuck that guy. Han Solo is alive somewhere. But killing off a character, that's just, okay, hey, look, I killed off somebody you love. I think with Rian Johnson, to come in there and take, pretty much the character in Star Wars outside of Vader and completely turn him on his ear is something that you'd never see. You just don't have someone coming in and going, oh, this is your favorite guy ever? Well, check this out. Not the way you remember him. That is taking a chance, like an incredible chance. So, I'd like to start there because I think that's the main complaint that people who do not like this movie, it's their main complaint is, I hate what they did with Luke Skywalker. So what do you...
Can we start with Mark Hamill's take on the whole thing?
Sure.
Because he's famously gone on record and said that he he was not on board with the idea of Rian Johnson's direction for his character. And people point to that immediately, all the haters, and say, like, see, Luke Skywalker himself says this is not the thing that Luke Skywalker would do. And all respect to Mark Hamill, but he is an actor playing a character that he didn't invent the character. So he has, some background in playing the character, but he never wrote the script. He never created the character from the start. So it is still, at the end of the day, just one dude's interpretation. That character could go anywhere, and Rian Johnson chose a bold direction, which credit for the attempt right off the bat. And also, I think that taking Luke in this direction, ultimately what it did was it put the focus on the sequel trilogy characters by purposely keeping Luke out of the fight until the very end. He let the new characters take the stage and take the spotlight instead of overshadowing everything they were trying to set up from 7 into 8 and carrying on into 9.
Yeah.
What do you think?
No, I would agree with that. And I think it almost, in a way, kind of shines a brighter light on the heroism of, the new characters, because while Luke is running away from the fight, you've got these new characters running towards the fight, even when the odds are at their most bleak. Mm-hmm. So, it's definitely an interesting juxtaposition, which I think was set up beautifully. Because, at the end, the thing that I never understand is that, people say, oh, I hate what they did to Luke and everything. But at the end, he does the most Jedi thing any character's ever done in the saga. The whole force projection thing, and he sacrifices himself. And I mean, that's the most Jedi thing ever. He basically used it. It wasn't for attack. The force is used for, knowledge and defense, never for attack. And, it was just brilliant. And the other thing about it to me, on top of your point saying that it puts the focus on the new characters, I think it makes sense. That's the one thing that I've never understood. What people don't understand is that if you look at these things and you take them to their logical conclusions, like if you extrapolate out the path that things can take, it makes perfect sense that he would, come to these conclusions. All the stuff that he says, the legacy of the Jedi is hubris. And when you look at it, it really, really was. And it makes sense for him to go, he realizes this and is like, wait a minute, this isn't the way to go. So
yeah, all throughout the original trilogy, he was scrambling for knowledge and growing in his own power. He didn't have time to really look into the history of anything. He just took it at face value, whatever he was being fed by Yoda and Obi-Wan. And then in their absence, after the fact, then he had time to go back and learn about the lore of the Jedi and form his own opinions. And I think that in itself is its own message, is basically just don't buy into dogma, make up your own mind when you're presented with the information.
Yeah, exactly.
And that was his lesson to Rey right off the bat when she came to find him, was basically, he said, you've got this. If you think I'm going to turn the tide, then you need to look in the mirror. And I love that message too. The idea that someone immediately thinks that they can run for help to this other person because they don't have enough faith in themselves.
Yeah.
And it's only through the absence of assistance that people find their true inner strength.
That's a great way to phrase it, man. That's a great way to phrase it. Jacob Forna tuning in says, hi. What's up, Jacob? Thanks for checking out the show. We appreciate it. Mm-hmm. Cam McLeish says, check this out. He's more like his dad than you want him to be. I think that's a good point, Cale. I think, Luke Skywalker, for, the Luke Skywalker super fans, and even for people that, are not maybe Skywalker super fans, like, I'm obviously, for me, Han Solo's my guy. Some people have Leia, some people have Rey and all that, whatever. The one thing that I think you could always say about Luke is that he just represents that pure 100%, just dyed in the wool, infallible good guy. There's nothing evil about him whatsoever. He's just, and now you see him in this and you're like, wait a minute, what the hell is this? Like, I wouldn't say he's like dark side Kale, but I know where you're going with that, which is he's not, he's showing, I don't think they're flaws, but I think it's showing, an acceptance of something other than just, hey, the Jedi way is the way to go. And I think for a lot of people that was also like very, very jarring. Kale says, you guys make this film sound much more intelligent than it feels when you watch it. I think that's a first on the show, AJ. That's 8 years. 8 years we've been doing this, and we're actually making something sound intelligent rather than dumbing it down.
We did it.
All right. Yep. All right, guys. Well, thanks for tuning in to the Nerd Herder Council. This is our last show ever. Enjoy. See you later. Anyway, Kale, to your point about it being much more intelligent than it feels, I think this is an intelligent movie. Talking about the Luke thing, and I think it adds on. Kayla Dawn Simons. See, you guys are smart too. No, Kayla. Don't even start thinking that way. This is not going to turn out how you think. Yes, movie quote, perfectly timed. Thank you, Kayla. Set me up nicely on that one. Yeah, I mean, Kayla, I think this is an intelligent movie. The Luke thing, I think it expands the Force in ways that I think are well done, but not over the top. So, I think in future, Star Wars is the property, but in future stuff that they released, I really can't put a sentence together tonight. In future stuff that they released, they did some Force stuff that was just dumb. This stuff actually made sense, and there's a digest here. So,
can you clarify that one?
After I sneeze.
Well, I'll ask a question while you sneeze and mute yourself then. There you go. He's muted. So the Force powers that I remember being invented in this, and mind you, they invent a new Force power in every movie, is obviously the Force projection is a big deal. And it even gets to a bit of like matter transference, I guess, because it gets to the point where Kylo Ren has a wet glove. Wow, that's bad out of context. Anyway, he's got water on his glove from connecting minds with Rey on Octo. So those are the two new skills that I remember from the movie. Is there something else that you're thinking of?
Well, there's like the Force dyad thing. There's the Luke thing. I didn't say that, meaning there's like 18 different examples. I mean, way to call me on the carpet, you dick. But
no, but you said in future movies and stuff, they've invented like dumber Force powers, but I don't remember them like in episode 9 where they're basically teleporting stuff around like lightsabers. It's just an extension of the water that we saw happen in this one.
I guess I don't know. That's excuse me. That's a topic for another time. Spencer is watching. Spencer is late for the party. Yeah, I just, like I said, I mean, there were other things like in the cartoons and whatnot. I was like, are you serious? Give me a break. I mean, I'm trying.
They have really subsequently like expanded Force powers, haven't they? Like they've gone into like specialties where Ezra's good with animals, and Cal Kestis can touch things and get a Force echo of the memory of the object, and that was kind of retconned from Force Awakens a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think they showed some restraint, but they still, you're right. The expansions of the Force in this, I think, made sense based on what came before.
Yeah. And I just think there's a lot to it. This movie actually makes you think. I mean, our first memory of this movie was seeing it opening night and you and I turning to each other. Well, actually, second memory, because the first thing we did was Carrie Poppins. We turned to look at each other. That slow turn with the seriously face. that was the first. But
that never gets any better.
No, that is, like I said, this movie is not perfect. It's great, but it is not perfect. And if anybody doesn't like us using the term Carrie Poppins, I apologize, but sorry, not sorry. That is just awful. It was very disrespectful to Admiral Akbar. I will completely side with people that say that. Anyway, my first memory of us watching this together was us turning to each other after it was over and going, wow, I have a lot to think about. I got to watch that again.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, at that moment, I thought that this movie was going to age well for me, and it has, because it's, all the other ones, like, whereas they don't make me think as much as this one, that immediacy was great. But this movie is the one Star Wars movie where you're like, man, there's a lot to unpack here. To me, it's almost like the new Indiana Jones movie, Dial of Destiny. You get all that great Indiana Jones action, but it expands the lore and it kind of beefs up what was already there. And for me, The Last Jedi, with Luke talking about, the Jedi legacy is hubris and all the downside of the Jedi and the Force and all this kind of stuff, I think that beefs up what we knew about the Force previously in the Jedi. Because, you just see the Jedi as a good guy, the Sith as the bad guys. But in this one, Luke is kind of like, yeah, hold on a minute. And it does make you think. And it's so interesting in that respect, and they even, and it's so blatant in it, just the character of DJ alone, good guy, bad guy, like,
you blow them up today, they blow you up tomorrow.
Yeah. It's so well done because it's right in front of people's faces, yet so many people miss it. The obvious thing is obviously like, let go of the past, kill it if you have to, that sort of thing is, the ultimate metaphor, and it's right there in front of your face. But, I just think there's so much more going on here than your standard Star Wars movie. And while not all of it landed, I love that it took those chances. I've long said on the show that my favorite aspect of this movie, as I started it off with, was that this is the most George Lucas thing that they have done since Disney took over. And George Lucas was known for taking those chances, pushing the envelope, always expanding. Whether or not it turned out good all the time, it's not the point. The point is that he kept pushing it forward. And, with The Force Awakens, you get, A New Hope rehashed. With The Rise of Skywalker, it's a whole bunch of fan service, which I don't mind. But The Last Jedi is that, hey, the Force and the Jedi, but check this out. Here's what it can become. Here's the other side of this. Like, here's the natural progression of where the Jedi were headed. So,
yeah. And the thing that I love about that is we're talking about episode 8 of a 9-episode saga. We're at the middle of a sequel trilogy. The die has been cast by the previous 6 movies already. We get The Force Awakens, which is just basically a victory lap of the original trilogy. Just, nothing but nostalgia. And so to be so close to the finish line of this grand scale epic, and to still come through with a movie that says, maybe you don't know everything about this saga, is just it's a bold step. We keep coming back to that statement.
Yeah.
And it's done in a way that doesn't undermine anything that came before. Like, I love that they use Luke Skywalker as the character to say, you want to run back to all the old heroes, so to speak, like me and obviously Leia and Han and Chewie, and, save our asses, please. You did it once before. And Luke's like, no. If you take a look at what all these time periods that you revere and all these people that are your heroes, they're not perfect. In fact, some of them are completely fallible, including me. So forge your own path. And I love that because it sets it up nicely. I think it teed it up nicely for episode 9 in some respects, but also completely like kneecapped it in others. But I think the best part of the setup was that it really did clear the decks of all the vestiges of all the nostalgia bait and everything that was laid out in episode 7 to say, like, look, here's a clean slate to wrap this all up with. Now, do you think that 24 people that ended up on the Falcon at the end of Last Jedi could possibly mount any effective resistance against a galaxy-wide threat like the First Order just 1 year later in The Rise of Skywalker. That's, I'll be charitable and say debatable. But
I would
that's
disagree.
That's a separate topic. But
you're wrong. They've got the Millennium Falcon. When you have the Millennium Falcon, you can kick everybody's ass all the time, anytime. We've been over this. It's the goddamn Millennium Falcon. It's not like they're on a Y-wing or
but you can't light speed skip.
Yes, you can. We're not even getting into that.
Nuh-uh.
Dude, it's the Falcon. The Falcon can do anything, period, the end. By the way, speaking of the Falcon, real quick side note, and we'll continue, but I actually had a dream the other day that I was at a new Star Wars movie, and they blew up the Millennium Falcon, and I literally got up and walked out of the theater. And all my friends they're like, dude, are you really like leaving the theater? I'm like, yeah, I'm leaving. I'm done. I'm done with this.
You'd be done.
I'm getting my tattoos removed and everything. I'm not watching this shit. Like, I'm not.
I fully believe that, actually. Like, you can sit there and stew in Han Solo getting sabered, but no one blows up the Falcon.
No, you can't do it. Mm-hmm. It's like there's certain things that are untouchable, which might be a whole nother episode, but you can't blow up the Falcon. You can't kill R2 and 3PO. It's like, in The Rise of Skywalker, how horrified were you when they killed Chewie? They handled that, they handled that poorly because they didn't let it play out long enough. It was like, oh God, they killed Chewie. Oh, he's back. Okay, never mind.
They had me hooked. They had me hooked at that point.
It hadn't sunk into me yet, so it was like shock. Oh, he's back. Like, I think they could have played it out a little bit longer, but so Spencer, Spencer is all over the comments, man. I got to bring up some of his stuff. Spencer, I love you, man. He and I just wax poetic on this movie whenever we can. It says the Battle of Crate is the most beautiful widescreen in Star Wars. I said it. I can't argue. Let's see. He says Force Awakens is Diet A New Hope. He also says, oh snap, they're making people think. God forbid.
That's another thing. The visuals in this not only are beautiful, which definitely a callback to George Lucas in that, but they make sense.
Yeah.
A lot of the shots that happen in the J.J. Abrams sequels are just for the sake of having the visual, even if they don't make sense where they're placed. Like the one I absolutely remember is the scene of the TIE fighters approaching in Force Awakens with the setting or rising sun directly behind them. Great visual, great shot. It's not that time of day. Like the preceding shot and the following shot very clearly established. It's basically like noon. The sun is directly overhead, or suns. I don't know how many are on that planet, but the sun is not where it is in that one shot of the TIE fighters. But you know what? That one shot looked cool. So who gives a shit about continuity? Like that stuff drives me up a friggin' wall. Or, the perfect formation of the 10,000 Star Destroyers, over Exegol in Rise of Skywalker. Like, who's parking this shit?
Who designed this place?
Right? Like when you see cool stuff in this movie, it makes sense. In fact, it even does some visual storytelling and some fake out. Like we completely missed it on the first go around when Kylo is fighting Luke on Crate. It makes a very big point of showing like the salt getting kicked up and there's, the red stone underneath. And we completely missed that Luke was not leaving any footprints.
I missed his beard was different. His hair was different. I missed the whole thing.
I thought he just cleaned his act up for, public appearance, but
he went and got a trim, went to Great Clips.
Seriously, look, if Leia can have a wardrobe change in the middle of the Battle of Endor, then, why not?
Yep. The only thing I will say that I did notice, speaking of continuity, is that when Kylo Ren has all of the, the guerrilla walkers just absolutely annihilate Luke, and it's nothing but like a red, like just swathe of basically glass. When they start fighting, it's back to being sand again. So I was like, okay, either the wind blew it over or, yeah. Kayla, wait, you mean to tell me there's logic in this film? I'm out. See ya. Nice.
Yeah. Also, they covered that. They explained that it's salt covering the stone, and as the wind blows, it gradually covers back over again.
That's what I figured. Okay. I'll let him. I'll let him do that. Kale McLeish has a good comment. He says, Ryan actually had the conviction to do shit we were going to hate and make it stick. JJ was like, imagine if Chewie got killed. Gotcha. That's a very good point. I mean, there's a certain conviction. Again, it takes a lot of balls to mess around in this sandbox and be like, all right, we're going to turn it on its ear. And, he did that. Whereas I think J.J. Abrams was afraid to do that. It's, like Spencer said, Force Awakens was Diet A New Hope. And then I think everyone agrees that The Rise of Skywalker was basically made for people like me. The middle-aged Star Wars fan who grew up with Star Wars as a kid. And hey, remember all this? It was like your term, member berries. It was member berries for most of the movie, which is why someone like me, I don't mind it. I know it's a mess in terms of the story and whatnot, how they paid everything off, but it's still like there's so much cool stuff that I enjoyed. I was like, oh, cool, I love all this. So, okay. So Spencer makes another comment, I have to call this out because I still can't believe that you missed this. Spencer says, can we say that Broom Boy represents all of us who played with Kenner toys? Yeah, I mean, there was even that, at the end of The Last Jedi, I was like, that was a little bit of fan service, I thought, with the little kids, doing the Luke Skywalker fighting the Walker thing. But with Broom Boy, it will always surprise me that at the end where he like reaches out for the broom and he like force pulls it to himself that little bit, that you never caught that. I was like, you didn't
not on the
see
first
that?
watch. No, not on the first watch.
I was like, wow. I mean, and I'm the one to talk because I miss everything. The first time we see a Star Wars movie, I mean, you know me. I'm just basically sitting in my seat going, Star Wars, it's new Star Wars, it's new Star Wars, it's new. That's all my brain is doing. Mm-hmm. And then later on it calms down and I start noticing things, but yeah, here's a point that I think is a good point about the movie, AJ, but I don't know how well it sits with me. Spencer says, anyone can have the Force, not exclusive to a Skywalker. I think that was cool. And I think it's obvious because, we've obviously seen that Jedi come from all races and species and whatnot throughout the years. But I think the inference that like literally anybody can have it, I think the one thing I didn't really care for about the movie was that it opening that door, I think can be a little dangerous.
I think Ahsoka opened that door. Just the fact that this random kid had the Force doesn't mean that everyone's got it. It just means that he has it, but he's not in a place and there's no Jedi order to find him and train him. Yeah, true. I mean, Luke Skywalker says the idea that, that without the Jedi, the Force dies. That's vanity. Like the Jedi don't control, they're not the arbiters of the Force. They are merely wielders of the Force. Teachers. I think that's what I took out of that was, there'll be no teachers. Like what happens when no one can teach it? That's the thing. Like you may have these weird powers and whatnot. And, Luke Skywalker, and the Force will still be there, whether there's anyone around to teach or not. It may, the knowledge may pass into myth. Much like, that's what they're saying about all these Force powers as they get invented. It's like, oh, like the Jedi of old knew all this stuff and then was lost to time. I think that's what Luke was saying, was that the Force will still be there, whether people are aware of it or not, or understand it and know how to use it or not. Yeah. So this idea that just without the Jedi, all of a sudden, poof, no Force. No, that's not how it works. Yeah. Moving on to a different point that I wanted to make about the movie. I think that this one feels it's much more personal in scope, I think. You have, the resistance is down to, these like 30, 40 people, whatever the hell it is, not this big overarching thing. The Luke and Rey stuff on Ahch-To is, that's very 1-to-1, that kind of thing. And, something about it, just the presentation didn't seem huge to me, to the point where like Snoke's throne room and the Canto Bight Casino
felt a little off-putting compared to the rest of the movie, I think. Like, but I mean, first of all, I will say I don't really care for Snoke's throne room. He's like, I'm just going to put a big red carpet over everything in this giant ass room. Like, okay. And then Canto Bight, like, I felt like the backgrounds were kind of plain. So it felt like it was a casino that had just opened the day before. It was like the soft opening of a casino when they still weren't quite done building it out, putting all the cool tapestries and pictures on the walls and stuff like that. So I've always kind of had that vibe out of it. But, yeah, I mean, Spencer, I mean, he's probably being funny, but he says Snoke's throne room seemed like they ran out of money. Like, yeah, there was nothing there. Like part of the coolness of, the Emperor's throne room, on the Death Star and everything was that it was, it was big, but it looked like it was industrial and stark, and there were things going on visually to the eye that were interesting. Snoke's throne room was, again, just a big crap load of red with some red guards in front of it, and then him sitting there on that, but that notwithstanding, I think, the rest of the movie was it was more focused on the personal aspects of things. You had what was, Poe and Leia, Poe and Holdo, obviously, like I said, Luke and Rey. I thought that was really, really cool. Obviously Kylo and Rey. There were all these like interesting interpersonal things going on a very micro level. And it wasn't this huge, you knew there was a bigger story going on, like, hey, the Resistance has to live somehow. But, I loved it. I mean, again, that was something a little bit different as well, I thought, for a Star Wars movie. What do you think?
Also, Rey and the caretakers.
Yeah.
There was a through line, though, and I did love that recurring gag that no matter what she did, she just pissed off the locals.
Right. I still think they should have left in the deleted scene where they go to that party, like the caretaker party. I thought that was really good. So, but yeah, I mean, so what do you think? I mean, how did this movie come across to you? I think it's a lot more focused and personal.
I think everything in this movie, as grand in scope as everything is in Star Wars, in terms of like, it's thousands of years instead of hundreds of years, and there's 10,000 star systems instead of like 100 star systems, and you can never seem to land closer than like 5 miles from wherever you're trying to get to, and then you got to hoof it from there.
Right. Everything's a goddamn journey.
Like everything is to the nth degree, and I felt like this kind of carried on that tradition, at least, where you had, you thought a Star Destroyer was big. Well, check out the First Order Star Destroyers. Oh, wait, we've got this thing called a Dreadnought that's bigger than that. Yeah. And holy shit, have you seen Snoke's ship?
Yeah.
Like, so they played with scale to like a ridiculous degree, which I think was supposed to be an homage, not a satire. But I mean, at some point you're like, God damn, you're flying around half a planet at this point. Like, how many people must have been on Snoke's ship? I mean, that part was ridiculous. So I think they were really pushing the idea of like the overwhelming might of the First Order, like the unstoppability of this juggernaut compared to this little spunky little band of Resistance fighters.
Yeah.
But yeah, so to pile, the entirety of the Resistance onto 3 or 4 ships, whatever it was, against like not even just like a handful of First Order ships. I mean, if they're blanketing the whole galaxy, they've got to have thousands of ships, and we're looking at like 6 of them. So I get where they were pushing that, and I think that's what you're talking about, is where you have the grand scale of the story, but it's told through the personal relationships, the understanding. And I think that was kind of the theme throughout, like Broom Boy, the idea that like one person can make a difference no matter how great the odds may seem. So sure, we've only got 4 ships, 40 people, whatever it is, against this overwhelming fleet of people behind us. And that's just, the pinky nail of the First Order. It can still happen.
Yeah.
And I love that. But the fact that they really connected that story, rather than like the prequels where George fell in love with the CG and he showed the biggest, grandest battles he ever could because he was never able to before. And those you kind of fall flat. I mean, you can watch clones and droids get mowed down all day long and not really feel anything. But when you've got individuals with names, faces, and motivations and goals clashing one-on-one, that's something that we can relate to. So I think the story is told through the characters against this backdrop of a grand conflict that we can't even comprehend.
Yeah. Spencer phrases it very well. He says it localized the plight, not just the grand scheme. Yeah. And, to your point about, the battles in the clone, in the prequels and stuff, I'm going to disagree with you when you say, seeing, droids and stormtroopers getting mowed down gets old. I would disagree. And I think it's kind of a natural progression. I think after the original trilogy, you had, we had heard about the Clone Wars. Okay, what is this? You heard about this galactic conflict. Well, now they're able to give you the galactic conflict. So we saw it. Well, now with The Last Jedi, that's almost the next natural progression is like, okay, let's break this down. Let's make it personal. Let's take this giant struggle and make it. So that's like the next thing. It's like you go from the biggest to like the smallest, and mm-hmm. I like that aspect of it. So, your point is well taken. I personally, if you're going to show me a bunch of huge Star Wars battles, like hell yeah, that's why we play Star Wars video games. Cause we want to, Battlefront's huge because we want to play in all these massive Star Wars battles. That's what we want to do.
It's fun for the eye candy, but you're not looking at like 10 clones get mowed down or, battalion of battle droids and going like, oh my God, those people had families, like, they're literally programmed from birth to do one thing, and it's fight. Yeah. And when you fight, you die. So
yeah,
it looks great, but there's no connection to the individuals dying on screen, as opposed to, when Rey's about to crash the Falcon in Force Awakens, you're like, my butthole clenches every time. Like, oh my God, is she going to make it? Like,
right. I love that phrase. Yeah, I think one of the other things that I love about The Last Jedi is there's, at least for me,
Kayla.
Yeah. Kayla says that's when they become people as opposed to just characters on a screen. Yeah, I completely agree with that. I think that again speaks to our point earlier, Kayla, of talking about, how Rian Johnson took chances. He kind of stayed away from that massive space battle feel, and it was down to just a few people, kind of like eye to eye. It wasn't just fleet to fleet. It was like, two people eye to eye type of a thing. The other thing I think about this movie, and maybe this is just me, but I think there's a lot of tension in this movie, at least for me, like kind of like you're waiting for someone to come help. I was thinking the whole time, like, well, it can't just be, these, 30 people left. It's, that's not how it works. Like, what the hell's going on out there? Like, when are they going to get help? And they're just, the little shuttle ships are getting mowed down one by one and things like that. And, Holdo has to pull off the Holdo maneuver to get him down to the planet's surface, to get to the base on Crate. And especially, it was probably obvious to everybody, but when they send out, Leia's distress signal at the end there and nobody comes, like, oh, the spark is out. And I'm like, dude, no way. Someone's got to hear that. Like, how are they going to play this out? Like when's everyone coming to the rescue? Like, there's a kind of like, where is, where is everybody? It was always a little bit tense. Like, is there help coming? And it really doesn't. So at the end, all you really have, it goes back to this whole concept of hope that they were espousing. And, they're just out there like, they're all smiles on the Falcon and everything. First of all, they're all smiles because they've got the Millennium Falcon, so they know nothing's going to touch them because the Millennium Falcon fucking rules and it's perfect. But, they're all smiles like, oh, we got this. And it's like, okay, well, so who's coming to help? Like, how is this going to happen? How are they getting out of this? And I like how it didn't pay off. I like how, they weren't down in the mines of Crate and all of a sudden, like, 8,000 ships come and there's this big battle on Crate. Like, no, they didn't do that. they had to escape by the skin of their teeth and kind of regroup and be like, all right, what the hell are we going to do now? I like that. It's another chance that Rian Johnson took that I thought was really cool. I love the tension there.
Yeah. Yeah, it was like the Battle of Hoth, but at the end of the movie instead of at the beginning.
Yeah, very, very good point. Very good point. I mean, and that's one thing other people have said. There's definitely some Empire-esque stuff in this one, and I could see that, I suppose. But I think it was handled enough to where, for me, I had to have it like pointed out pretty blatantly for me to go, oh yeah, I guess you could make that comparison. All right, I gotta call Jeff out. Jeff Caffrey says, I'm an expert Falcon pilot. You cannot tell me that you got through without dinging up that ship. No one gets through that ride at Galaxy's Edge without dinging up that ship. And I haven't done it, but I know that no one does, because you're always stuck with some dumb asshole who, here, being negative already first show of the year. You're always stuck with some dumb asshole who is in the other chair, who doesn't know what the hell they're doing. It might be some nitwit kid on vacation. Whee, I'm flying the Falcon. Yay. And they're banging it off of things. And you're busy trying to get frickin' a perfect score and not come out with like, yeah, it's exactly, Jeff. It's always the other pilot. And I know it'd be like that for me. Honestly, that is my biggest fear of flying the Millennium Falcon is I'm going to be kicking ass in that Han Solo seat. And the jackhole to my right is just going to be goobing it up, and I'm going to get mad. And I'm going to yell at somebody that I don't even know and go, what the fuck are you doing? Come on, get with the program. This is a Falcon, not a 78 Buick. I'm going to be so mad. I'm like, bro, you're digging up my ship. What are you doing here? And I know.
I love the idea that the piloting controls are actually canon, where like Han can only go up and down, and Chewie has to go right and left.
It's not fair.
So that's what you're going to be doing. You're just going to be going up and down like a motherfucker, and just praying that your Chewbacca is going left and right in the correct way.
Oh, I'm going to lean over and grab the damn wheel to go left or right if they keep screwing it up. I'm like, get your hands off of that.
You would too.
I would.
You would too. Again, you're going to have like.
Well, full disclosure, I know I'm being an asshole and I'm not being friendly, but I don't care. It's the Millennium Falcon, and I'm not having my time ruined by some moron who's just there to have a good time. This is not a good time. I have to smuggle for Hondo Tanaka. I think I got his last name wrong, but I don't care.
I was on a negative money run. I owed Hondo money at the end.
See, that's not happening with me. That's not happening.
It was hilarious. It was outstanding.
And another thing I'm going to do is when they're handing out cards, if I see them handing out a pilot card to someone before me, I'm going to reach out and grab, like, thank you. Like, it's just not happening. I'm going to fly in the Han seat the first time I ever ride that ride. That's just how it's going to work. Whoever's in that line needs to understand that is how it's going down. I'm a bigger fan than them, and I don't care if I'm gaslighting or whatever the hell the goddamn term is. I'm probably wrong on that. I don't care if I'm being a jerk. I'm flying in the Han Solo seat the first time I fly the Millennium Falcon, period, the end. Moving on to The Last Jedi.
Yeah. I mean, you are the bigger fan, unless your diet starts.
Here it comes. Jeff, they don't hand out the cards anymore. Yeah, because of people like me.
Yeah, they knew you were coming.
Exactly. They're like, oh my God, look at that guy. And Kayla, you get bonus points. First time viewer, and she's already bringing up some great show stuff. Hoth, I think you mean Colts. I'm on after the band. Yep. Anytime you're quoting Family Guy Star Wars, or you're quoting the Robot Chicken Star Wars, you are definitely in the right spot here. So, Chris
Spencer
Colvin
brings up a point that I was going to talk about.
Okay.
He says second movies are the best in each trilogy. I said what I said. Yeah, I was actually going to mention, just from a story structure standpoint.
Whoa. Nice shooting, Tex. He's saying that Attack of the Clones is the best movie in the prequel trilogy.
I believe that's what he's saying.
Spencer, if you're saying that, then we have an episode to have, which is we're going to do a cage match. I do album cage matches on my music show, where we take an album and we pit it against another, go song by song. We're gonna do a film cage match, the first ever film cage match here on the Nerf Herder Council, and it's going to be you on one side defending Attack of the Clones, and AJ and I on the other, or at least me on the other side, representing Revenge of the Sith. Because there it is. Jeff, Carlos Spicy Wiener. All right.
I think more likely is that Spencer forgot about Attack of the Clones.
Oh, he says I said what I said.
Oh man.
He says I said what I said.
I tried to bail you out, Spencer. But from a story structure standpoint, I think the second movie in a trilogy tends to be the best because it has the most opportunity and the least chance for failure. Because you don't have to establish anything. It's already set up for you in the first movie. And the third movie has to resolve itself. And we all know basic story structure. Like, we didn't think we were going to walk into Rise of Skywalker and watch the Resistance get wiped out and the First Order reign supreme over the galaxy, did we? So you already know where the story's going in the third act. And in the first act, it's just setting stuff up. It doesn't have to pay anything off. So the second act is all about subverting expectations. So of course that's going to be intriguing because it's going to turn everything that you already knew on its ear, but it also doesn't have to pay off any of the questions it sets up.
I think that's very astute. I would completely agree with that. Yeah, I honestly, I think you said it all right there. I don't have anything to add to that. I would completely agree with that. I mean, that label to me doesn't apply to Attack of the Clones per se, because Attack of the Clones kind of stands on an island in that it's, when we've talked about that movie, I'm on record as saying, to me, that's more like a mystery, like a whodunit, than it is like furthering. I mean, it furthers the story, but it's more of a whodunit type of a thing. Whereas, your description completely describes Empire and The Last Jedi. So, I would agree there. By the way, Christopher Colvin, I wanted to bring him up earlier because he tuned in and want to say, hey, so thank you for tuning in. One last point on the Millennium Falcon thing. He says, people that ride that ride.
Run.
Yeah, Smuggler's Run. Thank you. People that ride Smuggler's Run don't get that it's scoring. You need to bring only friends on board with you to make sure you win the bounty. That's very true. Thankfully,
which means you got to travel in a pack of 6.
Well, but thankfully the VCN guys go there all the time, so I'll be able to find somebody, and then I won't want to yell at them. So that's good. Yeah, some perfect examples of your sequel example, dude. Spencer and DQ, my dog pound buddy. Star Trek 2, Rocky 2, Back to the Future 2, John Wick 2,
Ghostbusters 2, Gremlins 2.
Jeez Louise. And John Wick 2. Here we go. And Aliens. Jeff brings up Aliens. So I would. Too. Man, see, that's a whole other discussion because a couple of those, Terminator 2, I think was like, man, I don't think that. I think that was supposed to be the end, but who knows? Anyway, so back to The Last Jedi. Yeah, I just think there's so much badass stuff in this movie, and you just kind of, like I said, when you and I sat there, we turned to each other so many times, and we're just going, yeah. And it's one of those movies that has such incredible rewatchability. I find that I watch this one the same way that I would watch something like Rogue One or, Revenge of the Sith. It's, you watch it and you just sit there going, God, I love this movie. And
it just moves. It's an easy watch.
Yeah. I mean, let's say
it's hard to say it. Sorry. It's hard to say that anything over 2 hours is easy to watch, but really the time just flies by. Maybe it's because we're fans of the movie that we don't feel like it really drags too much in any one part. Canto Bight is the one thing that might overstay its welcome, but yeah, not so bad.
Yeah, that one I have a hard time defending. I don't mind Canto Bight, but it's one of those things where, I could see why people wouldn't be into it. I think the cool part about Canto Bight is that it introduces DJ, who I think is one of the most criminally underrated and cool characters in Star Wars. I was really glad that they had him doing that and not the Master Codebreaker with his, Freddie Prinze Jr. look and his white suit and the red, palm bloom or whatever the hell it's called. Like, I mean, could you imagine if they would have done that? Like, they find that guy and he's flying around, like, helping them. Like, what the hell is this? They got this guy at like a formal dinner, and now he's like breaking him into, Snoke's ship. Like, what the hell is that? And instead, they got DJ, who I just thought was awesome. I don't even know why. I don't even know why I love DJ so much. I just thought that character was awesome the first time I saw him. Like, I don't know if
he's so unique. Like, he's got the stutter. Like, I don't know why that little tick is in there, but Benicio del Toro, man. I mean, he's just doing weird stuff because it's fun to watch.
Yep. It's a fun character. And I think, I love how he's the guy that, he points out like, look, man, good guys, bad guys, no difference, like kind of a thing. Like I thought that was really cool. It was very Star Warsy. It was very unique. And even when he sells them out, it's pretty cool. He's like, they blow you up today, you blow them up tomorrow. It's like, you're wrong. Maybe. Like, he's like, I don't care.
Caught. I made a deal.
Yeah, I did the deal. Yeah, exactly. And it was so freaking cool, that guy. I've thought about it, like trying to, if there were enough characters, but like us doing an episode of criminally underutilized Star Wars characters, and he would be way up on that list for me. Because, that just, Christopher Colvin says that character was great and maybe worthy of his own short series. There's some depth there. Yeah, I mean, he definitely would go do some stuff. How they've got this master code breaker, but this scummy dude, that looks like a homeless guy, he can do all the same stuff too. Like that.
This guy's like a true nihilist.
Yeah. Oh, that must be exhausting.
Is there anybody else in the Star Wars saga that overtly does not give a shit who wins? I mean, everybody eventually gets converted to one side or the other, and this guy's just like, nah, I'm out for me. I'll side with whoever makes sense at the time.
And to your point, I was going to say, maybe you could say bounty hunters, but they never show bounty hunters as like working for the good guys. It's always they're hunting down the good guys for the bad guys. So you can't really say that, All right, Spencer. All right. He says Watto. Watto doesn't care as long as he makes money. I'll give you that.
Only money. I wish I had a good phlegmy throat. I love that voice, but I'll never be able to do it.
Yeah, that's a difficult one. I can't do any good Star Wars voices, so I can just do Patrick Mahomes. Hey guys, I'm playing quarterback for the Kansas City Chiefs. And even that's not good. It's just making fun of him because I'm tired of Patrick
Kermit Mahomes. Wait, what the hell was that?
He does have a weird voice, and people always compare him to Kermit Mahomes, or Kermit the Frog, I should say. But, look at Spencer Kitster. Nice. Oh my God. I guess you could say the Jawas. So, but that I mean, look at this. I mean, this is it's taking us quite a bit of thought to kind of come up with an example. So, but yeah, I just think that DJ was a really cool character, and it was interesting. He was the one character like I thought kind of served a purpose, because we've talked in the past about how each of the sequel trilogy movies are constantly introducing new characters, and like sometimes they're unnecessary. It seems Janna in The Rise of Skywalker. Like, did we really need that character? I mean, at this point, we just want everything to pay off. Like, introducing a new character now seems kind of superfluous, like Zori Bliss or something like that. But, with DJ, at least it was a case of he was there to, kind of directly, say exactly what the point of this, of the narration was. Good guys, bad guys, who can tell the difference type of thing. Like, I thought that was cool. So it was a more purposeful addition, I thought. Uh-oh. All right. All right. Kayla says, I'm going to throw a wrench and see what happens. A little ways back. You guys are going to be so mad. Uh-oh. All right.
Oh, great. Now we get to wait on that one.
If you're going to tell me that I shouldn't kick people out of the way to get on the Falcon, like that, you're just going to be wrong. Oh, she says Jar Jar. Okay, where is this going? Are you saying Jar Jar was neither good nor bad? Please don't be doing the Dark Jar Jar thing, Kayla. Please don't do that.
Look, Jar Jar was stupid, but he was not evil.
Yes. You can't have evil Jar Jar. You can't have evil Jar Jar. It's not a thing.
As much as the Aftermath trilogy of books is a hard thing to get through, the interlude with Jar Jar is really sad.
Yeah, I don't want to read it.
It just addresses he's basically a street clown.
Yeah.
In the time of the sequels, basically he's a pariah. It's exactly like what Spencer said. He says Jar Jar is the cause of the Empire, and that's it. Like, he got swept up into events that were way too big for him to understand, and he got manipulated and did something horrible. And he's like entertaining kids on the street in the time of the sequels because he's just got nowhere else to go.
Kale, Misa the Lord of the Sith. In the book, though, like, as much as they make him a street clown, don't they kind of redeem it? Doesn't he like turn around and do something good or get off the something like that? Like, I've never read it because Chuck Wendig was such a dick on social media that it made me not want to read his writing.
But yeah, the overwhelming theme is that he's still out there just doing even the smallest of good acts by entertaining kids and being a goofball because that's what he's good at. And he just wants to make people happy.
So they didn't turn it around. It's just they leave him as a street clown.
Yeah, they leave him just being a street performer because at least he gets to like put the smile on like one kid's face a day, that kind of thing. He's just still out there just trying to be nice to people.
That's what I call lipstick on a pig. That was Chuck Wendig giving the finger to Jar Jar because he isn't like Jar Jar, but then trying to cover for it, saying, "Oh, well, no, but he's doing something nice." Like, shut up. You hate Jar Jar. We get it. Well, move the fuck on.
You'd love the other interlude where he actually canonizes Lumpy then.
See, again, this is why I don't read that guy. Like, what like that, that's just like fan fiction. You know what? I'm telling you, if he can canonize Lumpy, we got to get a job and we got to canonize Rashy, Discharge, and Crappy.
Crappy.
Crappy the Wookiee. So good. Oh my God. For those of you who are not familiar with what we're talking about, you can go back and watch a few episodes ago. We reviewed the Star Wars Holiday Special as well as A Disturbance in the Force, which is a documentary about the holiday special. And we determined that Chewie actually has an extended family, and the whole entire family is Chewie, Mala, Lumpy, Itchy, and then it's actually then there's ones you hadn't heard about, Rashy, Discharge, and Crappy. I think we were quite intelligent on that one. And besides, Crappy the Wookiee had me screaming laughing for a solid 10 minutes or so. So that was pretty good.
Completely derailed the episode. Yeah.
Yes. All right, so real quick, and then we'll get to our final thoughts. But Spencer, if you are actually saying that Attack of the Clones is better than Revenge of the Sith, I think that we need to make this happen on our next episode and do our cage match. It'll be Spencer. If you want a tag team partner, you can bring someone along. It'll be Spencer and a potential tag. This would be like WWE, the mystery partner. We'll do it like old school 80s wrestling. Who's the mystery partner? Perfect. So Spencer and a potential mystery partner versus me and AJ in a movie cage match. It'll be Attack of the Clones versus Revenge of the Sith. So I think we should do that. So if you can do it in 2 weeks, Spencer, let's get this going, man. So all right. So final thoughts on The Last Jedi. For me, every time I watch it, it gets better and better. I think, Spencer, bring it, Purgle fucker. Nice. We could swear on our show. Remember that? Remember, Kale or Spencer? We can do that. Thank you for not typing it in the chat, though. Yeah.
I think you should watch out for Kale though, because he's saying he's going to bring Tim Morris into the fight.
That's fine.
And he could. They're fine. Neighbors.
Hey, that works. I met Tim. We're basically friends now because I took a picture with him at poolside at Celebration. So he and I are bros. So plus I know how to say words in New Zealand with an accent. So there you go. All But yeah, so I think this movie gets better and better the more I watch it. It was an awesome experience seeing it with the orchestra. It was almost, we said almost like a 4D experience. It kind of added an extra dimension to it, which it does whenever you watch a movie with the orchestra playing live. But I thought it added, like, that environment added a certain extra depth to it that was really, really cool. I think there's some great music in the movie, and I think, with the orchestra doing it live, you hear a little bit more of the subtle nuances. So I thought that was really cool. And again, I just find this to be one of my favorite Star Wars movies. And when it came out, I never thought it would be. I liked it more and more, but this one just has like a staying power that, for me, the other sequels do not, as much as I do enjoy them. But, The Last Jedi has a staying power for me. And I just love how it beefs up the things that come before and after it. I'm a huge fan of that. When you can give me a 2.5 hour movie that I enjoy in and of itself, that also adds to my enjoyment of the other things around it, I think that's a very difficult thing to find. And so I absolutely love this movie for that reason. I absolutely love the Luke Skywalker, angle in this movie. It was very logical to me. And again, I thought it added to the Luke character. So I just think this movie is enjoyable all the way around. And it's really cool to have that one Star Wars movie that, like, we mentioned earlier, makes you think. You contemplate things and you see things, there we go, from a different point of view. Yeah. So I absolutely love it. I think it's great, and I think it's very underrated. And I agree with Spencer as my final point. He says 20 years from now, it will be looked at as the turning point. I would agree with that. I could see that happening. So, The Last Jedi, your final thoughts.
My final thoughts on The Last Jedi. A phrase that's come up at work today as we were reprioritizing projects for the year and scrapping some that don't seem to be worth working on was the phrase "kill your darlings." If you're familiar with the phrase, you'll know what it means, but I had to explain it to my boss because it's an English idiom and he's in France, so he doesn't get it. It basically means, like, don't be so precious with the things that you hold dear that you can't possibly change them or move away from them. And I think that's the theme of this entire movie, is this idea that Star Wars can be more than just the one thing. It is the exact counterpoint to The Force Awakens, where The Force Awakens was somebody trying to make a George Lucas Star Wars movie. And this was more the idea of a lot what Dave Filoni does, where he, rather than trying to emulate George Lucas, he goes back to the inspirations that George had and the things he was trying to say and do in those original movies, and come out with his own statement as a result. So this is Rian Johnson saying, I'm going to use George's formula, but because it's me and not George, here's the kind of movie I'm going to make instead. So he takes those characters, and all the established characters go in interesting new directions because he's not beholden to what everyone expects them to be based on what their own headcanon said they must continue to be. So you get Snoke dying, you get Kylo Ren taking over, you get Rey being nobody, you get Luke being this broken old miserable guy, you get Yoda telling Luke, like, give up on this idea of what the Jedi were and just let the future unfold as it will. And I think, to the point about this being the turning point for the franchise, I think it really was. And I think that's the best thing to say about this movie. And the reason we keep revisiting it and finding new things in it is because it is something new in a 40-year-old franchise.
Yeah, I completely agree. And, one thing we didn't touch on, and I was, last little thing here, and we'll jump out. But yeah, I mean, even Snoke, the way that he got killed, like, you don't see, you saw Maul get carved in half or whatever, but it was an interesting way for him to get killed. He got bested by someone he didn't, I cannot be killed, I cannot be beaten. And he did. It was okay at a time when you didn't think so. Cause usually, the big bad guy death comes at the end of a trilogy. This did not. It's like, okay, well, now what? Now who's the bad guy? So even that was great. And it was different and something fresh, So, all right. Well, that was awesome, dude. We will talk to Spencer and see, if he's willing to step into the octagon against us in 2 weeks here to do a cage match, Attack of the Clones versus Revenge of the Sith. So we'll see. But that was a blast. It was a great trip. We had a great time watching some football and watching some Star Wars and hanging out. Very cool. And appreciate all you guys in the chat for tuning in. Great to see some new faces. Kayla Dawn Simons, great to see you. Where'd you go there? Obviously, Kale and Spencer, great to see you guys. Jeff McCaffrey, Christopher Colvin, great to see you. Appreciate you tuning in. Blast. The chat is always my favorite part, dude. I just love the point that they bring up. You know, Kayla's, let me know if you need a ring girl. That would be hilarious. Oh my God. We'll have like a list of points, and we'll just have her on one camera just hold like a little Post-it note with a number on it, like with the round number. It's just like the most low budget shit we could possibly think of. But yeah, thank you guys very much in the chat. For those of you guys who are tuning in for the first time, we love bringing up the stuff on the screen and having you guys kind of be a part of the conversation and sometimes drive the conversation. John Godfrey, my buddy DQ, he sits right behind us in the dog pound, says Joe Flacco is a Jedi. That is absolutely true. That is absolutely true. So, we will be right back here in 2 weeks. The date will be Wednesday, January 17th. It'll be at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time at all these fine locations. Facebook and YouTube, both not only ours, but the Virtual Cantina Network. We also have a Twitch page. If you guys want to subscribe there, we go live on Twitch there as well. So yeah, we'll be right back there. Before we get our closing here, AJ, why don't you tell these fine people and all of our audio viewers out there about our Patreon page?
Absolutely. That is the place to stay up to date on everything Nerf Herder Council for the time being, until someone teaches me how to use WordPress. So we're not very active on the socials. Unfortunately, we're not X or Twitter people very much. So Patreon's going to be your best source of information. You don't actually have to subscribe or pay us money. You can join for free on Patreon, and you'll get notified anytime we make a post. That's going to be our audio episodes. It's going to be our WTF Friday episodes when we choose to do those. Any announcements about shirts getting put up or taken down will be put there as well. So everything Nerf Herder Council is going to be at patreon.com/NHC podcast. If you're curious what these WTF Friday episodes are all about, I have for you example A. This is the beginning of the Temple of the Golden Idol. We are 1/3 or 1/4 of the way through building this thing. I do live Lego builds at least once a month, usually on a Friday, maybe a Saturday or any other night or day of the week that I feel like. This is for you, JT. You'll love this.
Yes. Yes.
So yeah, the boulder actually rolls and tumbles and resets, no problem. So that's all cool. So we do Lego builds. That's a chill hangout. We talk about anything you want. I build some Lego while we do it. I've got a couple of sets waiting in the wings, and I've got some cool things in mind for how to spice that up a little bit with a potential celebrity in air quotes, guest co-host on that one. So we get all kinds of fun stuff going on. Make sure you tune in at patreon.com/NHC podcast. And you can also find merch for us at shop.nerfherdercouncil.com. That'll take you to our TeePublic page. As I get, hopefully, the design that I'm wearing put back up there, that's where you're going to find it. But again, check out the Patreon page. We'll post when that's available. That's about it for my plugs. What do you got, JT?
Well, as usual, we are brought to you by Audible. Go to audibletrial.com/NHC for your 30-day trial and a free audiobook download. As AJ mentioned, you can get Nerf Herder Council swag, all customizable, by the way, at shop.nerfherdercouncil.com. If you would like to get some kick-ass Virtual Cantina Network swag, just go to tpublic.com/user/virtual-cantina. And again, we will be right back here on Wednesday, January 17th at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. As usual, guys, we appreciate you. Thank you very much for tuning in. We'll see if Spencer responds to our challenge because he hasn't done so yet, which means I think he might be bitching out a little bit. But we'll see. We'll see if Spencer can, answer the WrestleMania challenge or the UFC challenge, as I said. We'll step into the octagon and battle Attack of the Clones versus Revenge of the Sith. So until next time, guys, I am your host, JT at Dog Pound Jedi. He is AJ.
at Drake Adams 579.
And we will see you later, and Happy New Year.
This bucket of bolts is never gonna get us past that blockade.
This bucket's got a few surprises left in her. Plus, me and Chewie are on it. Ain't that right, Chewie?
Hell yeah, you my nerf herder.
You my nerf herder.